All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This looks to be the 206th Governance and Risk Call here at MakerDAO. My name is Peyton. I go by Pros11 online. I am one of the governance facilitators at Maker, and I'm joined here by a bunch of awesome people who are interested in what we do. Many of them have working arrangements with the DAO or are otherwise contributing to the ecosystem. And this is the call where we come together every week to talk about what's going on. Some weeks easier than others, perhaps. So in order for this to run smooth and have a good time, like keep in mind, this might be your very first call that you're on. You might be watching this recording later. All of us have to enter Maker at some point. So let's try to make it easy on newcomers and oldcomers alike. And just following a few simple rules will help that a lot. First is let's try not to talk over one another. I try to be as laid back as possible in terms of my moderation style, but I will step in if people continue to speak over each other. We can use a bunch of the awesome Zoom features to make it easy on us. One is the raised hands feature. If you'd like to be added to the virtual speakers list, as it were, just go over to your reactions and click raised hand if you're on the desktop version at least. That'll let me know that you have something to say. And when the person who is currently speaking finishes up their thought, I'm more than happy to call on you and give you the floor. Likewise, if you're unable or otherwise unwilling to hop on the mic, you can always drop your comment or question in the chat, and I'll try to work it in when conversationally appropriate. Other rules, like I said, let's be kind. Let's ask questions. This is our open forum to discuss things that are pertinent to Maker. And basically, if people don't ask questions, if people don't have comments that they want to attach to presentations, then we don't have much to discuss. Those calls aren't very fun. So we really appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to be here, and hope we can get some good dialogue on. All right, I think that's more than enough on my end in terms of blabbering. While I prepare to run through the agenda for today, one little fun thing to get everybody in the mood of talking and engaging with each other. If you have a favorite animal, excuse me, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Curious what everyone thinks. I know personally I hadn't been asked that question in years, so it's actually kind of hard to come up with something. But it's a wolf on my end. Take that how you will. So with the platypus, I like that. Honey badger, lion, European beaver, something I didn't know existed before this morning. Got owls, looks like a koala emoji that is very cute. Of course, Tiago should have guessed the designer with the neat way to participate. 4 to 5 year old humans, yeah, pretty adorable animals for sure. Dogs are people. All right, that was fun. Hopefully you get to learn about something, reach out to incorporate someone's favorite animal, getting to know each other better, and some of the things we like and spend our time thinking about really helps us engage and come together as a community. So thanks for humoring me with that exercise. Well, let's get to business, Thomas. Take us to our slide. All right, so agenda, pretty standard. We'll start with our votes, what's going on in the land of Maker improvement proposals and on the Maker forum. No planned initiative updates today, and our discussion topics are somewhat broad. So we'll kind of be looking for community input. We might run a poll to see if there's a preference over starting with one of those, if that would be useful. But a couple of the big things going on in the community right now. We have strategic finance. There's an offboarding proposal also involved in a number of the discussions surrounding Rune's latest version of the in-game proposal. So maybe some overlap there, but basically both of those things can intertwine and have been quite popular in the forum lately. So if we'd like to continue discussion in this call, I would support that. But let's do the easy part first and take us to our votes round. The votes are nice. They happen on chain. We can all agree about what happened to them, and just need to update you on who the winner was. If you take me to the next slide, we'll go over the polls first. We had 2 concluded weekly polls. Those are our polls that run from Monday to Thursday and finished up about an hour before this call. The first was the Backed Finest Special Purpose Fund short ratification poll proposed there that did pass, as well as the Maker Open Market Committee, their monthly recommendations. This month was a little special in that they put together two separate recommendations and let the community choose which one they like better. The community selected option 2, which was basically all of the recommendations. It had all the options of option 1 plus a few extra ones, and that was the winning option. We had 3 green light polls conclude that would have happened on Monday, but we haven't talked since Thursday, so I'll go over them quickly. The first one that was passed was the Real World Asset Arranger Block Tower Credit. The other 2 were deferred. That just means more no votes than yes votes were put forward. So unless something changes with those collateral types or partners, we won't be investigating them further. All right, if you take me to the next slide, thank you, Thomas. Executive proposals. So this week's has already passed. There is office hours though, and it didn't pass till today, which means it won't be eligible for execution until Monday. When that happens, we'll have the final plan drawdown from the initial 100 million for HV Bank and the technical launch of Maker Teleport on Optimism and Arbitrum, which is quite exciting. We'll still be waiting on a UI and a more, I guess, like public friendly version for Teleport, but this executive does kind of flip the switch on the technical level, which is pretty big achievement. Next week, we're looking at some CU vesting streams, both transfers and streams. Sorry, that could have been conveyed a little more clearly, but we'll be doing some MKR transfers for Real World Finance, Deco, and Growth. We have delegate compensation and the aforementioned Maker Open Market Committee changes. Ooh, one thing to note about those is we're preparing a forum post, but it looks like some of the members from PE are recommending that we do not go with the full debt ceiling recommended by the Maker Open Market Committee. So this is a somewhat infrequent occurrence in Maker, but basically the reason we give facilitators kind of the power to put the brakes on, to include an item for vote, or to push back against an item going up for vote, is that they have been elected as experts in their particular mandate and domain. So here we basically have an ecosystem actor saying, hey, we understand community wants to increase the curve stake ETH pool collateral type. That's a mouthful. However, we're not comfortable increasing all the way up to 100 million and are going to recommend a different figure instead. The nice part is, like, this can always be changed by Maker governance, and the kind of political check against facilitators abusing that power is the idea that they can be removed at any time by a vote of the DAO. So they will only be making recommendations like that when they feel that it is like imperative to the safety of the protocol, or that is basically a minute change, one that doesn't have any real effect, but needs to occur in order for something to happen. We saw that with the reward assets legal updates, where we basically had to change a few clauses and change an address destination in order for a counterparty to return us funds. So obviously something that we don't need to debate why that might be important for us. And that's why we have this special ability for facilitators to insert governance items. All right. I was a little heavy on governance even for the governance and risk talk, so I'll go ahead and stop talking and pass the mic over to one of our MIP editors for the MIPs update. Is it Pablo today?
Yep, it's me. Thank you, Benton, and hello everyone. Let's move to the next slide, please. So we had one short ratification poll going up on Monday this week, as Peyton mentioned. Short ratification polls are 3-day ratification polls that enter the weekly cycle. So this one just closed today and passed. It was a special purpose fund to fund the legal work on greenlit backed finance collateral. Let's move to the next slide. There's at least 1 and 2 at max upcoming short ratification polls going up on Monday, September the 5th, both related to MIP 65 Monetalis Clydesdale. One is MIP 55C3 SP8, which will be there unconditionally. This is a a special purpose fund sub-proposal 2 that requests a 30,000 𝘳𝘓 reimbursement for the Strategic Finance Core Unit for advancing expenses relating to legal work in the context of a MIP 65, and conditionally, MIP 4C3 SP4 is a proposal that changes the legal verification process in MIP 65. It will go on chain if its signal request, as required by MIP 4C3, passes. If you haven't voted yet, please do. I'm going to attempt to share the link here. Cool.
Thank you, Don.
Yep, let's move to the, yes, thank you. So let's move on to the proposals in RFC, most of which are eligible to enter the September governance cycle and are therefore frozen. In the interest of saving time, I'm not being exhaustive here and will omit proposals that are not recent, will not be formally submitted, or otherwise do not require immediate attention. So we have a MIP set that formalizes delegates as entities within the MIPs framework and establishes how they are to be compensated. We have the sub-proposal set to onboard via splitting a new real world finance core unit. This one will remain in RFC for now, as publicly communicated by its author. We also have two special purpose funds being requested. One of them is a 81K 𝘳 fund for funding further work from the Ambassador Program. This one will be entering the monthly cycle. And the one I just mentioned for Monetalis Clydesdale to fund legal work on it. This is probably going to be a short ratification poll going on Monday. We have two MKR budgets, one for GovAlpha and one for the StarNet Engineering Core Unit, both eligible to enter the September cycle. And we have three coordinated offboarding proposals for Immunify Security, which I don't think is going to be formally submitted, for Strategic Happiness, and for the topical one for Strategic Finance. We have a facilitator offboarding sub-proposal to afford the current real-world finance 001 facilitator, William Bremer. This sub-proposal is eligible to enter the October governance cycle at the earliest. We have a facilitator onboarding proposal for Psychonaut into the Immunify Security Core Unit. This one will remain in RFC for now, as communicated by its author. And finally, we have one amendment to shorten the feedback loop for delegate participation. This proposal is eligible to enter the September cycle, but notice that this amendment modifies MIP 61 delegate compensation, which will be deprecated if the delegate MIP set were to pass. So in the case that both this amendment and the delegate MIP set pass, this amendment would have no effect. Moving on for important dates, well, as you know, short ratification polls will be going up on Monday, September the 5th, and the formal submission window opens on that same day. Something that I forgot to add, the author of MIP 72 is requesting feedback for his proposal that was posted in the forum on April. I'm going to be sharing the link. Please go read and leave feedback on this one. And that would be all from me. Thank you, guys.
Question. Nice job, Pablo. Appreciate you having the links ready for chat. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Artem for an update on what's happening in the forum.
Thank you. Artem here from GovComms, and welcome to the weekly forum recap on the GNR. Going over the week of August 25th to the 31st. I'm just going to post a link to the forum recap that's on the forums. It's actually a thread, and it has a directory on top if in case anybody wants to go back to previous weeks. Let's get started with this week's news and announcements. First post up announces several changes made to the legal text of the HVB Master Participation Agreement. And the amendments aim to clarify the types of loans that fall under each loan category and were triggered by several discussions with Ancura Trust Holdings, the calculation agent. A poll to ratify the changes will occur on Monday, September 5th. And Peyton from GovAlpha also posted a response below explaining that a poll is being used instead of an executive vote in order to give the community more time to consider the proposal changes and ensure that recognized delegates will have a chance to present their views on the topic. And next up, also by CES, the Collateral Engineering Services Core Unit recently updated their collateral management lifecycle diagram. And the post goes on to explain how different aspects of MakerDAO's current situation led to changes in which areas require the most attention and focus, namely being active collateral applications, onboarded collaterals, external collateral relationships with applicants and onboarded projects, and finally, real-world asset deal signing. And next up, this is considered partly an announcement and discussion, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but a post by Rune outlines the Endgame Approval MIP Set that he plans to submit on the forum by next Wednesday, September 7th. If approved, the Endgame Plan pre-game phase will officially go underway, and topics covered in the post include the launch of MetaDAO clusters, the MIP 0 Endgame amendment, optional Lido to MKR swap MIP, collateral onboarding special mandates, protocol-owned vault emulation activation and budget reductions. And yesterday's DVC call, which was held by Rune, discusses this MIP set that's posted. And the call was recorded and it's already up on YouTube. The link is available in the forum recap as well. Additionally, Rune also posted a timeline and plan on how to free float DAI this week, which is also mentioned in the forum recap discussion section, if you're interested to check that out. And next up, we're moving on to our signal requests. We currently have 3 signal requests active right now, and they're all ending tomorrow, September 2nd. First up on the list, submitted by GovAlpha, promoting the MIP4 C3 SP4 of MIP 65 amendments. And this MIP would amend MIP 65 to shift the certification requirements to a 3-day ratification poll. And also below, as a response, GovAlpha's bot provides a link in the signal comments to a summary of the MIP and its signal request. And as mentioned earlier, the signal ends tomorrow, September 2nd. The current vote breakdown for the signal request is 50% in favor, 43% are abstained, and 0% is against it. And for our next signal, this signal aims to gather sentiment regarding compensating former real-world finance members, 𝘰𝘬𝘦 and TJ, with a pro rata amount of MKR for their work hours as part of the core unit. And both of them spent a combined total of over 3,000 hours of onboarding, negotiating, and structuring real-world assets for Maker. And both 𝘰𝘬𝘦 and TJ are seeking approval for this pro rata distribution of a little over 73 MKR to TJ's wallet and 48 MKR to 𝘰𝘬𝘦's wallet. And so far, in terms of vote breakdown, the majority of the vote is abstained, which is sitting at 39%, followed by yes votes supporting the signal, sitting at 33%, and the remainder of the no votes are at 27%. And as mentioned, the signal runs until tomorrow. And for our third and final signal, posted by 𝘱𝘰𝘭𝘫, as USDC concerns loom, and maybe a little bit less than a few weeks ago, but still looming. And the USDC PSM continues to operate without fees. 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘫 attempts to regain traction about his doubt on continuing 0% PSM fees, which was initially posted as a proposal idea a little over 2 months ago. And in an effort to gauge sentiment on reducing our USDC exposure, 𝘱𝘱𝘭𝘫 asks whether we should increase the TIN and or the tout on the USDC PSM, and what base points these parameters should be set at. He presents both the pros and the cons to increasing either parameter. In terms of vote breakdown, we're finally getting sort of a final vote, and it was getting a little up and down, but at the end, the majority of the vote does not want to make any changes to both parameters, leaving the TIN and the tout at 0. Yeah. Anyways, so that's it for at least the GNR section of the forum recap. The forum post of the forum recap is a little bit more, has has a little bit more stuff in it. So more announcements, more discussions, a little bit more detail on the signal requests, and also any ongoing initiatives and any help wanted. Speaking of help wanted, if anyone needs any help or has posted anything in the help wanted, feel free to send me a message so I could link it and announce it in the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Right on, Honor. Thank you. Really detailed as always. Looks like we're only a couple minutes behind our projection, and I took up way more time talking. So nice job, everyone, getting the information out. Cool. So now we get to move on to what I think is like the fun portion of these calls, which is the open discussion. Right. This is a place where we talk about one issue or several that's going on in Maker and what we would like to do about it. We had some back and forth in chat earlier that suggested that maybe the strategic finance offboarding wouldn't be a very interesting topic. I think an easy way to see if that's the case or not is to just start there and say, all right, does anyone have anything they would like to say or get clarification about this? And if we don't have much to say, we can move on, but would like to, strategic finance, there's members from that team here. Obviously, if they wanted to say something, I'd love to give them the floor. Likewise, plenty of delegates and other active voters in the call who might wish to ask them something to inform their opinion on the vote.
I guess just to get things started, hi, I'm ADCD, Adrian. We're taking this seriously, and I think part of our work can only improve with constructive feedback and corrections and criticism and so forth. So to the extent that anyone has thoughts along those lines, we're open for it. If anyone has some sincere views on offboarding strategic finance, also open to hear those views in a dispassionate way. Yeah.
And a few people from strategic finance were on the previous delegate call as well. So if you're interested in learning about some of the issues there, that might be a good recording to check out when it's posted. But for now, for a limited time, you have first person access to ask questions. I think this is something we maybe take for granted in it now, like how incredible it is to actually have people who are making decisions, who are making proposals, like actually here show up to open questions, to open comment. I was a poli-sci major, so there's plenty of fun examples of politics of politicians avoiding their town halls or not coming back to their constituency just so they don't get protests or people telling them that their job is wrong or what have you. So for me personally, as a governance facilitator, like this is something I really like to promote, and we don't have to spend more time if no one asks questions. But if you're there in this call and you do have a question, this is your prompt that the floor is yours. We really don't care who you are or what brought you here. We're interested that you want to participate and would love to hear what you have to say. The chat putting the kind of fun reality that like with pseudonymous individuals, right? You don't necessarily know if they're present on the call or not. But no one speaks up, and that's fine. Cool. Everyone's silence tolerance is a bit lower than mine, so I think it'd be a good time to move on. Thanks for being here and for saying that, Adrian. And obviously, there's a lot of back and forth around strategic finance in the forum. Those threads are being pretty well responded to. So if you do have an inquiry, you can post it there. All right, let's go on to the next one. As mentioned, kind of in the run up to this meeting when we were waiting for people to join, typically on Thursdays after this call, there's a decentralized voter committee kind of hosted by by Rune, that today was canceled. That's on the backs of yesterday having a long, well, maybe not long by Rune standards, but it was certainly a meaty post about some plans for Endgame. If someone happens to be near the forum, if they want to grab the link to that update, that might be good to share in the chat. But basically, yeah, we're not going to have that outlet for discussing Endgame later today, so we wanted to discuss it on this call. Happy to moderate that discussion as well. Personally, I have a curiosity how many people have read through it, because I was scrambling to find time to finish it yesterday, and I was able to, but like, I suspect the vast majority of people may not have had time.
Sorry, could you clarify? Did you mean the Endgame V3 one, the mega post, or the first MIP set post?
So Rune posted one yesterday. It was the V3 one, right? And then there is also the MIP one, but I think I was referring to the V3 one. If you don't mind my eyes wandering for a moment, I'll confirm that. And then Long put his summaries up there too. That's a good shout. Long for Wisdom, one of the previous governance facilitators, has been summarizing the really long in-game posts to make it easier to understand what they're about. And the latest version has different levels of depth, so you should be able to accurately understand to your level of desire what's going on with in-game. Okay, so the V3 one was the one from last week, Tim. So that is a good one. But I was thinking of the pre-MIP set, I guess. Cool. I see a hand from 𝘱𝘦. Sorry, I was alt tabbed. Don't know how long you were there, but go for
I
it.
just started it. I mean, I figure if we wanted to start discussing the MIPs, I'd kick it off by saying, how do people feel about converting a large portion of our treasury to staked ETH? My view is that it's kind of risky because our revenue is already based on ETH prices. And if our treasury is also in ETH, then like if there's a bear market and ETH crashes 50%, then we lose half our treasury and we lose all our revenue. And then we're basically like having to sell off ETH at a loss to cover expenses. But I'd be curious if there's any alternate views. Treasury, by treasury, I mean surplus buffer. Sorry, I use them interchangeably.
No worries. Seb, I don't know, is your hand in response to that? If so, take it away. If not,
Yes, it is in response. Just to say that in the IAM framework that Strategic Finance proposed, there was the option to buy ETH, staked ETH, or LPs, which might make sense. There was a senior request that was kind of approved. And so there is already a framework from that. And I think in the proposal, it was mainly for the income generated by MakerDAO, not directly the surplus buffer, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think the main difference was to change the capital at risk value, which is fine, and I was completely open to change it. It's a governance decision. That's it.
I guess on the risk considerations, right? It's a different ball game for die backing, having a supposedly stable asset versus one that's inherently volatile. I don't know if people have opinions on that, or obviously a lot of this has been wrapped in the bigger question of depegging and whatnot. So there's kind of an interesting interaction there.
Just to clarify, it does say 100 million DAI is transferred from the surplus buffer to the pause proxy. And I believe that 100 million DAI is what is being used. So it would be coming from the surplus buffer.
Yeah, correct. No, you're completely right. I forgot about this part. I don't know, maybe it was changed or didn't. I'm waiting for the MIP but yeah, you are correct. And in his mind, it's 2x leverage. So kind of assuming that the risk of ease going down is 50%.
Yeah, apologize if I misrepresented that view. Obviously, if it was coming from the surplus buffer, it wouldn't really have an impact on die backing. But potentially other risk ramifications of not having that die in the surplus buffer.
I mean, it impacts die backing if we have a loss and we no longer have that buffer to cover the peg.
It's definitely a very interconnected system. So anytime you make changes, you do got to consider, right, what are the trade-offs, what security or speed am I sacrificing to get this idea in place? I guess one interesting point to add to your line of question, Code is like, we have kind of struggled as an organization, right? Like, I think it's fair to say at the MCD launch, you know, it was this like bright world of like, okay, we can collateralize just about anything put in the maker system. You know, we can be loaning out, you know, we can aim for trillions, if you will. But the reality has been much harder that in terms of Oracle costs, in terms of partnership, everything that goes into getting a collateral. Basically, the number of profitable options are far smaller than we started with. So at least intuitively, when I heard Rune's plan, I was like, okay, well, I guess if you have to pick an asset, ETH makes sense. And if we're accepting that the merge is happening, staked ETH, sure. But yeah, that was very interesting to say, like, all right, well, instead of just worrying about it on the collateral aspect, we're going to actually start accumulating it and having that be like a core value prop of the DAO. Some governance musings on the matter. Take them or leave. So I see there is some good back and forth in the chat here. Code9 asking Luca if there's like a safe buffer capitalization. I remember in a lot of the finance presentations, there usually is some extrapolation based on kind of the riskiness of the profile. I don't know if anyone from strategic finance would care to give an answer. One is probably it depends, but can maybe give a more some more nuance there.
Yeah, just say that you know, we'll have to model exactly, you know, what Rune is envisioning through the endgame plan to see, you know, stress test scenarios and you know, if there's a leverage component, which I think, you know, Rune's keen to do, how much leverage and kind of how that all flows together. Obviously, things are quite fluid with the plan right now, and we're waiting for more details. But yeah, hopefully we can share a model shortly after his next post, and you know, we'll look at this as a community to understand the implications.
I guess I'm kind of curious if anyone's doing anything permissionlessly to kind of like investigate this, to look into it, to contribute. Obviously, a lot of our calls here kind of end up being on the permission side, right? We say, all right, what will governance allow us to do, or what will the future bring to Maker? But I think one of the exciting things about this organizational structure is the fact that like anyone who's interested can show up and kind of showcase their open source contributions, say, hey, look, here's what I did. Should I do more? I think we need more people kind of thinking, and you know, not what will governance allow me to do, but what can I do for the DAO? He's gonna link out to Dirt Roads from Luca. Always nice to have you in those writings. I see a question from Paper asking if any large MGARA holders happen to be on this call. We'd love to hear from them. So basically how our system works, right, is we have all these recognized delegates, shadow delegates, maker voters, everyone comes in and expresses their opinion, but particularly for delegates, right, they have people delegating to them, some of which they know, some they don't, and basically they're trying to make decisions on behalf of that group of people that they may not necessarily know. So open calls like this are a great place if you are an MKR holder, if you do have an opinion on the kind of future state of this protocol. This is a great place to speak up and tell us what you think we should be focusing on. I think I can neutrally say it, but that was a good joke, Chris. Speaking of holding hostage, I kind of feel like bringing a room of 47 people here to sit in silence and existential worry about the DAO, which may not be super beneficial. All right, I see a hand there. I'm going to venture Jacob is the name, but maybe I'm wrong.
That's right. This is just a question I've had about trying to understand the endgame proposal, and maybe someone can explain to me. But when we talk about the idea of depegging, what happens in terms of oracles and how we're valuing assets in vaults that determines the amount of DAI that can be lent? If the value of DAI has gone down, does that mean people can now take more DAI out against their assets? Are we still valuing those assets in USD? What, I just haven't quite understood this reading the proposals.
Yeah, that's exactly how it would work. I mean, assets, well, prices can, basically you need to be able to convert between, the USD price of an asset and its value in DAI. But yeah, the system now, and its accounting says if DAI is worth, $0.8 or $1.5, it uses that when someone has, like an ETH balance and a DAI debt to determine what their collateralization ratio is at.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. And way back in the day, someone will have to look it up. I think it's MIP 20, somewhere around there is the Vox module was actually passed. So this is something that we've actually put up to maker government. Said, yeah, sure, if needed, this seems like a thing that you could do. But it's never been implemented because we either haven't had enough of a reason to, or no one's really pushed for it since it got passed. So yeah, as Kurt was explaining at the kind of most base simple level, what it does is it changes how much our system thinks DAI is worth, and presumably the markets would adopt to that change. Awesome, that was an awesome question. Thanks for bringing it. I remember some of my first GNRs. I was like, I understand maybe a tenth of what's being said right now, and I'm so scared to ask questions. Maybe some people wish I had stayed that way, but now you get to hear me talk a lot more. All right, so on my end, there's a lot of people here who get paid a lot of money to oversee a lot of important things. So we're not going to have any discussion. Might as well give the time back to everybody. To speak to that a little bit, like there's like a sense of obligation to come to these calls as CUs, right? But if we as a community don't find a way to make them useful, engaging, we'll start to see members drop off. We'll kind of have less transparency as a result. So any feedback or ways we can do better with these calls and get more people to share their voices and opinions please, we'll gladly take it. All right, folks. Well, thanks for those of you that did join us today. We'll go ahead and plug the forums, the chat. Let's keep the discussion going. There's a lot going on in Maker right now. It's kind of hard to keep up with. So make sure you're taking time for yourself as well. Go out, see the world, and kind of remember the reasons that brought you into this space and all the wonderful dreams you wanted to accomplish. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.